Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Predicting, Developing, and Measuring Leadership Effectiveness webinar. Today, we'll be discussing the inherent enablers for leadership success, ways to develop and coach behaviors that matter most to your organization, and how to deliver results that are focused on business outcomes. During the presentation, we'll be collecting your questions, so feel free to use the comment section on the right side of your screen to submit your questions. And we'll address those in a short Q&A session at the end. We'll also have 2 poll questions during the presentation where we'll ask for your feedback to help drive some additional discussion. And then lastly, the slides of today's presentation will be available to everyone in attendance shortly after the webinar. So you'll receive an email with a link to the slides as well as some additional resources. With that, let me introduce our presenters for today. We have Steve Towers, the Vice President, Principal Consultant of Talent Management at Right Management, and Steve Griffin, the President of ThinkWise. Steve, I'll kick it off to you.
Yeah, so today's a presentation of Steve and Steve. So at any point, if I just keep saying Steve, I'll have to make sure Towers, we're referring to Steve Towers so that everyone can help differentiate some of the voices. So I wanted to get us started with today's conversation. Heath, thank you for kicking this off and introducing Steve Towers and myself. In just a moment, we're going to listen to Steve Towers introduce his practice at Right Management, but a little bit about ThinkWise first. As you see on your screen, you'll see our solutions, which are online assessments and learning content that really drives leadership development and employee development. We've built the solutions from left to right, being you select your competencies that'll drive your business and marry that to 360s, team performance, as well as hiring tools as well. And we built ThinkWise on the foundation of helping businesses align leaders to what matters the most. So that's a little bit about ThinkWise. Steve Towers?
So Right Management is part of Manpower Group. We are the global leader in talent and career management workforce solutions. Our solutions help companies effectively address strategic talent challenges across the employee lifecycle. If you see on this slide from the far left, really starts with helping companies select and integrate the right talent, engage and develop their people, build the next generation of leaders, and enable the successful transition of talent from role to role, whether those changes are within organizations or helping individuals transition to roles outside of that organization. Let me tell you a little bit about our leadership model. As you can see from the previous slide, let me see, I'm trying to get the slide to move. Steve, is there someone on your side that can, there we go. As you can see from the previous slide, talent and leadership is at the heart of what we do. So today I'd like to share some of our perspectives on leadership based on our research and also on my personal experience. Then later on in the presentation, I'll walk you through our leadership model and also show you the model in practice. So this is less of an opportunity or intent just for us to talk about right management. My hope is really that this will provide you with ideas and insights that you'll find valuable in your work and in your organization. So why did we develop the new model? In 2011, Manpower Group first identified what we call the human age. This was based on our research. Our research outlined 4 evolving global workforce trends. In order for companies to thrive in the human age, these are the issues that global leaders must be prepared to address. The first is really about changing relationships between employers and employees, balancing life and work, job flexibility in new ways. The second is all about technology and innovations in technology and the impact that that has had. We've seen the increase in the pace of change and also decreasing the life cycle of skills. Third, employees changing careers more frequently. There's difficulty in filling jobs, lack of future leaders identified for critical roles. For instance, from one of our research in 2015, we found that 46% of organizations identified lack of future leaders as a top concern. The fourth thing I'll point out here is also changes in attitudes toward careers. Multiple generations in the workplace increase in a younger, tech-savvy workforce. In short, the world of work is changing at a rapid pace due to a variety of factors: economic, technology, lifestyle, and the nature of workforce itself. A key characteristic of the human age is that talent overtakes capital as the key economic differentiator. There are a variety of important shifts in how people work which will impact how leaders need to lead. For some time, we've acknowledged that the, quote, job for life is no more. Secondly, career security versus job security. The goal for individuals today is to be employable, to develop the skills, experience, and expertise necessary to move on or up regardless of your employer. This makes career ownership and planning more important than ever. People are increasingly also working longer careers and will need to adjust their work patterns to suit. They will experience career waves, working full-time or more intensely at different periods, and demanding greater flexibility in choice at other times. Leadership, therefore, will also need to flex. The haves, those with the most in-demand skills, will have the greatest choice and will be in a better bargaining position and able to manage their own careers more. The have-nots, those without in-demand skills, feel increasingly disposable and marginalized. This raises a question of how well are we preparing our future workforce and our next generation of leaders. Let's take a closer look at some of our research. There are a few interesting things I'd like to point out here. Based on our experience, the Manpower Group development team surveyed more than 400 businesses to get their perspectives on key challenges. On the far left, you will see digitalization clearly leading the list of, quote, the most important global trends impacting your industry. This will only increase as technology continues to change the way work gets done. In the middle, we see a real focus on career and change relationships between employee and employer, leading the list. You may notice this is followed closely, again, by technology innovations. On the far right, agility clearly leads the list of the most important leadership characteristics, which is no surprise given the amount and pace of change in business today. We need highly agile leaders to help navigate the path forward and solve increasingly complex business challenges. Not only that, we need more of these leaders. One company that I've worked with talk about how we really need to not just rely on, quote, the usual suspects. We need more people who can solve complex business challenges. Allow me to turn things over to Steve for a moment.
Hi, everyone. Steve Towers wanted to say thank you for getting us through the first portion of today's presentation on leaders and as well as how job and career and satisfaction is changing and shifting. It's going to be a fascinating rest of the conversation, but to help us with a pause and a way to get everyone engaged in helping us understand what they see, we've listened to Steve Towers talk about the research from Right Management being pulled from 400 different businesses. So it'd be interesting to see how our audience observes some of those trends as well. So for our first poll question that we're going to ask, which of the following trends are most relevant to your organization? We have A, changing relationships between employers and employees. Or B, technological innovations. C, employees changing careers more frequently and lack of future leaders identified, or D, changes in attitudes to careers and a younger tech-savvy workforce? I'm going to let the audience weigh in on this, Steve, and as we sit here and collect the data, we'll put it up on the screen here in just a few moments, and I'll ask you for some commentary on what we're seeing here in the polls. So let's hold tight, everyone. All right, we're just maybe another minute. We got a few people engaging in the poll, and then we'll throw this onto the screen for everyone to take a look. Okay, Steve, if you take a look at your screen, you'll see we're tied a little bit at 27% with between two responses. The first one, changing relationships between employers and employees, is something that commonly is being seen by the audience, tied with employees changing careers more frequently and lack of future leaders being identified. So I'm curious, Steve, how this may line up with the 400 respondents and your experience at Right Management in the talent management practice, how this aligns with the observations of the audience.
Well, it certainly does, especially around the employees changing careers more frequently and the lack of future leaders identified. This may speak in part to the current trends in unemployment. So it's a bit more of a employees market these days, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that there's not a shortage of talent that companies are struggling with. So we continue to hear that on a pretty regular basis in spite of the high level of employability these days.
Great, Steve Towers. Thank you very much. We're going to stop the poll and transition into the P3 leadership model slide.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So changes in the world of work, as we've talked about, are only accelerating. The P3 model stands for people, purpose, and performance. This is really our point of view around the key, quote, ingredients to drive leader effectiveness in uncertain and dynamic markets. Let me be clear, this is not a product. This is not something we're pushing and selling. This is really really represents our point of view. And we use it in order to speak with companies, in order to help them shape the way they think about talent, and also what it takes to develop talent in a strategic way. As we've developed the model, we certainly made many disciplined choices. The model has deep roots in Manpower Group's 6 decades of workforce expertise. Every day we help more than 400,000 clients in 80 countries address their critical talent needs. Building on this experience, our team, number one, researched and analyzed macroeconomic trends impacting businesses. As we mentioned, we surveyed more than 400 business leaders, from senior executives to middle managers, to learn which trends are most relevant to their organizations and what they consider to be the most important components of leadership today and moving forward. And third, we interviewed experts and thought leaders from business and academia to gain their insights into talent assessment and development. If we go to the next slide, there are a few things about our model that we feel differentiates it from others. The first thing I would talk about is the inherent enablers. We've identified the 4 key traits that we believe must be present for leaders to be successful in dynamic market environments. Organizations must leverage assessment to identify and invest in leaders that have the greatest probability for success. We then distinguish that from what we will call coachable capabilities. We have narrowed these capabilities down to 3 key areas that leaders must develop to lead effectively. Third is our emphasis on business outcomes. Delivering organizational effectiveness in the human age is all about aligning business performance with talent. And our model, a focus on talent ties back to the key business differentiators and also to what the company needs to do in order to succeed and grow. So let's take a look at the model in depth. P3 model provides a high-level framework for strategic talent management. It provides a systematic way for organizations to build strong leadership pipelines by, number 1, identifying talent with the greatest potential for success. Number 2, helping them develop a focused set of capabilities. And third, by managing their performance by measuring and rewarding talent or relevant outcomes. Let me do a deeper dive into each of these 3 main elements of the model. Leadership enablers are the first. When we talk about inherent enablers, we are talking about inherent attributes of an individual that, when present, can help predict future success and lay the groundwork for the development of leadership capabilities. So you see the 4 key inherent enablers. Number 1, adaptability, all about being comfortable. To what level is an individual comfortable with ambiguity, complexity, and uncertainty? Drive is all about, does someone have that internal energy, that hunger, that motivation to be successful and to grow? Third is all about endurance. To what degree does a leader have that stamina, that tenacity? And the fourth is all around brightness. To what degree is someone naturally intellectually curious? To what degree do they have a natural appetite to continuously learn? So these are the 4 key areas that when you're assessing for selection or maybe assessing for even internal promotions, these are some important things to be aware of ahead of time. Reason being is they're very difficult to develop. In assessing for these traits, you are essentially putting the individual's leadership DNA under the microscope. Enablers are what the person is, how the leader is hardwired, and not what the leader does or says. The degree to which a person is assessed positively on these 4 enablers can help predict his or her likelihood of success in developing leadership capabilities and realizing desired outcomes. Conversely, if the evaluation reveals low scores on all 4, it's going to be a tough journey to lead in a dynamic market environment. Enablers can be enhanced in a person, but if the trait is not already present to some degree, it'll be very difficult to develop. For example, attributes like intellectual curiosity and drive are not really teachable. In our experience, few leaders are equally strong in all areas. Assessing for enablers can be of value in relevating potential problem areas where leaders could benefit from learning compensation strategies. Now let's take a look at the second part of the model. Coachable capabilities are the actions a leader takes to help the organization succeed. In contrast to enablers, these are highly teachable and developable. The core capabilities within the model are focused squarely on accelerating an organization's ability to compete and win in a global marketplace characterized by significant opportunities and risk. In short, the world that we live in today. To be effective today, leaders have to, number 1, unleash talent. We need leaders who can challenge the status quo, build trust, seek diverse viewpoints, and enable the careers of other individuals, for example. Number 2, accelerate performance. We need leaders who can build strong teams, really establish a shared vision, outline short and long-term strategy, and really think at that strategic level. Leaders who can inspire transformation, leaders who can build collaboration across borders. Third, Dare to Lead is about operating with integrity, making courageous decisions, challenging authority, fostering and rewarding innovation, and demonstrating self-confidence. So there are many assessments that can be used to give leaders an understanding of their strengths and weakness relative to these types of characteristics. 360 assessment is certainly one of those, and one that I'm sure everyone on the phone is familiar with. But I'd like to turn it over to Steve to talk a little bit more in depth about ThinkWise and some of their capabilities in this area.
Steve, thanks for walking us through the P3 model. One of the things I want to highlight is you mentioned many assessment tools are usually required in order to better understand an individual, and that's certainly true. One of the things that we appreciate here at ThinkWise is that there's no one predictable way to address every human facet, if you will. So there's not one tool that's going to predict success at the next level. It's usually a multi-strategy that's going to be required. People are certainly very complicated. I make fun of myself even sometimes that, we're messy. Human beings certainly can complicate the workplace, and on top of that, the environment, both internally and externally, have forces, and that changes how we involve ourselves in the workplace as well. But to say that, there are assessments that you should use that allow the business to better understand the talent that they're supporting in the organization. And by using assessments, you're going to be able to better align the development opportunities and just better assess the leadership capabilities and also address some of the gaps that we all have when we go to work. At ThinkWise, one of the things that we do is keep our ears to the market and really pay attention to how businesses want to drive development. So as a result of doing that, we kind of built in a capability to our 360 survey in particular. And that's the ability to measure before an intervention, such as a leadership development, classes and coaching. And then once those interventions are over, say after 6 months, 9 months to a year, we've built in a post 360 capability. And this allows both the leader that was the participant and the organization itself, along with the consultants, to really see how that leader has evolved and changed over time due to an intervention. And we find that this is a fairly unique feature to a 360, and which is the ability to measure change. And that's where it's really important to use that in conjunction with personality assessments. Personality doesn't change. Steve, you had mentioned things like intellectual curiosity is not necessarily teachable. But some of the components are things that you can leverage in coaching. You can watch a leader grow over time and then really evaluate the return on the investment on that coaching with doing a post-evaluation 360. So to wrap it up, as far as ThinkWise is concerned on this aspect of today's presentation, we've also built in a second feature to the 360s called the 5 and 5 focus. And what this does, it pushes 360s into an uncharted space, we think, because it deploys learning material to leaders based on their 360 results. They're not canned pieces of material that everyone's going to be reading regardless of their results. So our 360s are tailored and customizable, and then the learning is adaptive to that and really meets where that leader is and provides them resources based on their strengths, as well as help them jumpstart on some of the areas of growth that are going to be required to help bridge a gap. Steve, I'm going to let you transition into discussing with our audience today on business outcomes.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So the third part of our model is around business outcomes. So we talked about the importance of talent and how it's really the most valuable asset in business today. And leadership performance metrics must expand to recognize this new reality. Measuring a leader's impact on talent-focused outcomes is just as critical as evaluating financial metrics, such as revenue or productivity. So in addition to the financial metrics, KPIs should be considered by leaders to look at things such as improving, to what extent am I improving individual and organizational or overall engagement of my team, meaningful career management, or even a more humane organizational culture. So really what we're encouraging is a blend of KPIs that really focus on not just the revenue-focused outcomes, but also the people-focused outcomes. Secondly, business outcomes should be at the forefront of any talent development program. There needs to be a clear line of sight for everyone involved. What are the key outcomes, the key business outcomes and problems we're trying to solve? How does this program align with our business strategy? How will this help us win as an organization? And also, how will it help the participants advance and grow in their career? So just making sure that the business outcomes are at the start of any planning around a new talent initiative is, we feel, very important. We go to the next slide. One sees different challenges and objectives as one moves up the hierarchy in the leadership pipeline. That's for certain. But while the areas of focus and challenge do change throughout the levels, there are also some areas of similarity in terms of what leaders need to do well in order to be effective. Certainly around to what extent do I communicate clearly and effectively? Do I inspire other people about the vision and where we are going as an organization? What degree do I influence effectively, whether it's within my function or even more importantly across my function? What degree do I engage my team members and those around me? What extent do I coach and develop people? And to what extent do I display trustworthiness in order to really gain the support and buy-in from other people? The P3 model is flexible in that it can help you think through the talent planning at multiple leadership levels. Let's take a look at the model in action. So if you go to the next slide, using a model such as the P3 can have a variety of benefits, some of which we've touched on a bit already, but I'd like to highlight a few here. One is around talent identification. This is really identifying what are those leadership characteristics that are most important to our business moving forward. This is about saying, how is our business changing? As a result of that, what do we need our leaders to do differently? Secondly, who now, that enables you to then identify who demonstrates this potential. The second piece I would emphasize is around, and this is the part that I find most exciting about the P3 model, is it can really help build a leadership culture. It can help establish a common leadership framework or language and can help companies make really smart decisions about building the right capabilities at various levels. Finally, all around, this is all about faster time to value. This happens in two different ways. Number one, by making sure that with your assessment and development talent programs, you're focusing on the most important leadership traits, those that are most important to the success of the business, prioritizing those. And then number two, with your programs, maintaining that clear line of sight on business objectives, strategy, and outcomes, both before, during, and after the leadership program. Let me show you an example of a development program in more detail. We'll get to an actual client example in a minute, but let me do a slightly deeper dive on those three areas that we talked about before, the three capabilities from the model: accelerate performance, unleash talent, and dare to lead. At Wright, we've aligned our leader development modules to each of these capabilities. These modules reflect the key leadership challenges that we see through our research and our discussions with business leaders today. So for example, I think folks on the phone will recognize some of these challenges. Leading in a complex environment. How well can leaders really navigate the way through complex changes? How well the leaders lead with a strategic perspective, really elevating their thinking beyond their function and really working at the enterprise level. Coaching to unleash talent is all about to what degree do I develop talent on a daily basis and have the skills necessary in order to have really in-depth performance and growth conversations on a regular basis and not just once or twice a year. Influence across boundaries is all about really working across the aisle and help working in a way that enables us to drive change, build coalitions, and get work done, especially with people that don't report to us. So these are just a few examples of very common leadership challenges, and these are reflected in our modules. Now, workshop modules are just one piece of the puzzle. We've all heard about the modern learner. In a nutshell, we know that the requirements of leaders has changed. So has what it takes to fully engage them in a meaningful way in a development program. So workshops are just one part of a blended and effective solution. When you look at the things on the screen here, all of our programs include some of these. For instance, and we would encourage you to include these in your programs as well. Number one, free work to support learning goals. So prior to whether it's a one-day program or a multi-day program, we give people a little bit of homework. It might take them 15 or 30 minutes of their day. It might be an article, a case study, some sort of pre-reading, or even more meaningful, it might be think about a business challenge that you're currently working on, or think about a business initiatives, a process improvement that you think would be important, or think about a coaching challenge, someone on your team that you really would like to have more effective coaching relationships with. It really just gets individuals to think about the challenge ahead of time and really bring that with them into the program itself. Therefore, as a result of that, we're extending the learning experience, and more importantly, we're allowing leaders to wrestle with situations that are actually important to them during whether the one-day program or a multi-day program. So it also enables us to prioritize our face-to-face time on highly experiential and engaging learning. Manager and peer coaching are involved in all of our programs to some degree. Individuals are getting feedback from the facilitator and also from their peers. And engaging the managers up front is certainly an important element of an effective program. Learning reinforcement is all about how can we, through technology, enable leaders to continually apply, be reminded of things that they learned, and apply those over time in ways that are just in time, mobile, and meaningful, and also focusing on outcome measurement. In addition to these, oftentimes we might include a virtual assessment, 360 as Steve mentioned, or it could be any type of assessment. Virtual assessment with some feedback and coaching, or beyond the experiential learning that happens in a one-day program, it could be action learning over a period of a few months, or Business Challenge Lab, which is our approach where we create highly experiential learning over the course of 2 or 3 days as opposed to 3 or more months. And certainly integrating a blended solution by using virtual webinars in between face-to-face, and quite frankly, this again extends the learning experience, enables you as an organization to do some of the development in ways that are more cost-effective, and some topics are highly amenable to virtual webinars, where others are better done face-to-face. Again, it helps us prioritize that face-to-face time on activities that are going to be the most meaningful. So let me show you one example of a program that we've delivered that includes several of these elements. This is actually a program that we delivered in partnership with ThinkWise. And it's a good example of how we created a blended solution far beyond what could have been just 1 day of training. This was an organization that was moving away from traditional performance appraisals and that once or twice a year development conversation, and needed their leaders at all levels. Really, the main goal was we need to raise performance across the board, and we want to do that by increasing the ability of our managers at all levels to embrace coaching and develop their skills in having effective coaching conversations on a daily basis, not a once or twice a year. So you see there is that 1 day of training on month 2, but we also, as you look across the slide, you'll see group coaching, two different 90-minute webinars to focus on group coaching, one on giving effective feedback, and second on effective delegation. You see a 360 survey at the beginning. In addition to 360, we also used Hogan assessments. Prior to the 360, we developed a custom competency model that was focused squarely on leader as coach and unique to their organization. And when working with ThinkWise, we're able to incorporate that into that 360. Again, we had face-to-face and virtual training. There was micro-learning through a push and pull in the pre and post 360. So Steve, let me pass it over to you to share a little more information about 360 and ThinkBox.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, and walking us through the program that you launched with the client engagement here. I just wanted to make a comment that your engagement includes something that's, I think, less commonly found, but starting to become more expected, and that's having a 360 in the front and the back. Most often engagements such as this will have a 360 on the front end because that's all people hear about and that's all they're expecting. So they'll engage with assessments, personality assessments, 360s, and team surveys, and you name it, and dive really quick into coaching, micro-learning, classroom exercises, and the program. And then at the end of the day, you're going to have a CFO that says, how was my money spent, right? So, Steve, I want to congratulate you and Ray Management. What you did, you answered that CFO's question by having a 360 at the back end as well to really shore up the measurement of how effective the programming was and answer a really important business question, which is related to the value of leadership development. We all know it's a great thing to do. We all see companies doing it because they think that's how they're responding to the marketplace, that they have to do it. It is a must. But at the end of the day, they're still a business and should be very responsible and ask the question, what is it delivering us? And in the end, it delivers them better leaders through the programming and coaching that Ray Management offered. And you're able to gauge that by having a back-end 360, deliver those results to a CFO, to a CEO, and let them know, here's the value on a Ray Management talent management practice. So having that front end pre-360 and then the back end, which is the post ThinkWise 360, really allows an organization as well as the consultants look at how the gaps were bridged, so to speak, and if there's any straggling opportunities that should be shored up with more individualized coaching once the program is over as well. The micro-learning that Steve, you had mentioned about push and pull through ThinkBox, it's a valuable resource of over 800 pieces of content, from video to book summaries to quick tips that are aligned to the competencies that Steve Towers had mentioned, and can really be attached to any custom library for the most part that's out there. And what that does, it enables the leader that's participating in a project along with the coach really look at some of the homework assignments that are a little bit more cognitive and behavioral oriented, can allow that leader take on some of that learning content and leverage it with their team, right? It's not a good sign when a leader consumes material and puts it on a shelf. A sign of a good leader is when they take a piece of material, even if it's bite-sized, really digest it with their coach, and then take it back to their team to show them, this is what I've learned, this is what I would like us to engage in, what do you think? And that helps with kind of reciprocate that coaching experience with the team and gets learning a little bit deeper than just a program typically affords. I want to congratulate Steve, you and your team at Right Management for providing such an excellent experience with your client there. I want to transition us to our final poll question with the audience. So in the beginning we talked about various talent management practices. For this one, to the audience, what tools and approaches do you envision incorporating into your leader development programs over the coming year? So think about the next 12 months. What do you kind of envision leveraging if you're a consultant with your client groups, or if you're an internal HR professional with OD and learning teams? You have a range of approaches here, from assessments to in-person training, virtual instructor-led training, micro-learning. We had talked about that earlier, which can be anything from 30 seconds to just under 5 minutes. Self-paced e-learning, learning reinforcement, and then action learning. So I want the audience to engage in the poll. We'll give you guys just a few minutes to go through that and interact with some of the responses there. And then Steve, once they're complete, what we'll do is show the results to everyone, and we'll digest some of the responses there. So hold tight, everyone. All right, just about 15 to 20 seconds left, and we'll show everyone the results here, so hold tight. All right, so we're going to show the responses from the poll, and it looks like, Steve, if you take a look, action learning took the lead, followed up by assessments and then in-person training. So this is in line with what you offered in your program, so it's a great, I guess, marriage in the presentation that you offered today, Steve, to the audience, as well as their observations of and desire for what they'd like to tackle over the next 12 months. Do you see anything here that's necessarily surprising, or things that Right Management is taking a bit more aggressive push on some of the responses that you see there?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I'm pleased, a little surprised that action learning took a lead. I would figure that would be certainly on the list, but my guess would have been that would have been maybe third or something like that. But I think that speaks to the need to really, action learning is a great way to engage leaders in truly embracing what they're learning and practicing it. And that's at the end of the day, when we're applying it on a regular basis and we're living and breathing what we're learning, that's where we're learning the best. And also it provides a nice return oftentimes to the business. Certainly assessment and in-person training, not a big surprise there. It's good to see those there, and the micro-learning and learning reinforcement also on the list as well. So it really is looking like a lot of folks on the phone are also looking to build those blended, integrated development approaches, and I think that just speaks to the value of that type of approach versus only doing, say, instructor-led training.
Steve, that's great. And part of what I think you're commenting on is that organizations are not looking to Right Management and picking from a book, a menu of options. They want a blended approach because they see the value in the multitude of resources that are being offered, from the assessments to in-class to the coaching to micro-learning. One thing I just wanted to highlight on there is action learning, since it got elevated as a high response. Action learning has been around for quite some time, but it tends to be something that is like tackling a business problem that's real. And it's not so much learn something in the classroom, memorize it, and use it when it makes sense. It's about bringing a real problem that's kind of breaking the legs of the organization, so to speak, into a classroom with just very action-oriented leaders and their teams to solve it quickly, and then figure out what the solution needs to be, and then go out and do it, and then revise it as you start to implement the strategies and see some things work, some things don't, and continue revising it until you've landed on the solution that works. This is a great solution that you'll see evidence of in places like Google, Amazon, even Tesla. They'll have what's called a hackathon, and that's where they bring in their developers for the problems that companies cannot fix. They cannot figure it out. And they'll not only bring in their employees to do this hackathon, they'll bring in outsiders. Just come on in. Here's the problem that we can't fix, and fix it. And then people just sit there and work to no end until it's solved. And that's what action learning is about, is just working together, banding together, and getting things done until it's solved. What does that really do, though? It actually takes politics and culture aside and allows people to actually work and get things done. So, Steve, we have just a little bit of time for some questions, and I wanted to throw one out there to you so that everyone can hear the response, either you or your experience from Right Management with the engagements that you have out there. So bear with me as I go through some of summarizing the question, because it's a little lengthy. Someone noted that corporate culture at times can have a strong emphasis and may even, quote unquote, eat strategy for breakfast because the people will take over. But can you comment, Steve, on some of the issues around trust and trustworthiness and how that can impact some of the talent management practices for Right Management, or just in general, the talent management practices? How you see honor and value and trust, and how that may impact some of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, trustworthiness is really all about really working in a way with other people, leading and interacting in ways with other people that is highly where we're demonstrating integrity, where we're walking the walk and talking the talk, where we're living and breathing in ways that really build that trust from other people. And you have to be authentic, and there has to be a high degree of integrity. People pretty soon will really see how we really feel about things, where our values actually are. So I think this is really about, in order to drive effective change, we can't lead through our expertise. That can't be, especially as we move higher up in the organization, we can't create change just because we're the expert in the room. We need to influence and engage people by interacting with them in ways that builds that level of trust, especially in highly matrixed organizations where we need to work with people who don't actually need to work with us in many cases. So that's why in our programs we often do have a heavy emphasis on trustworthiness, understanding my influence style, leveraging different types of styles, and really building a culture that enables us to work effectively across the aisle. So that's a really key component in a lot of our programs. And I would say, making a link back to that action learning that we talked about, that's a great way to give people a chance to, solve a problem that is enterprise level. Get out there, work with people who don't necessarily need to offer you their time, and find ways to influence, find ways to build those strong relationships, act in a consultative manner, help the other folks that where you need their help, to really understand where you're going and why. So the action learning is a great way also to give leaders a chance to demonstrate that trustworthiness and their ability to really influence outside of their function.
I want to thank Steve Towers of Right Management for joining us this morning, and the audience as well. Steve, that was a wonderful presentation and review of your pre and post 360s, and then the level of just deep engagement that you have with your clients on coaching and learning and helping them progress through your P3 leadership model. I want to remind everyone today that we will be sending them a copy of today's presentation complimentary, so that'll be sent to you shortly. And if anyone has any questions or follow-up, please follow up with us via email. You can find all of our contact information on our website. And again, Steve, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and joining us this morning.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll be in touch. Take care.